Poudre School District closed on March 24th. So we can delete that.
Hey, Matt.
I love you.
What you doing?
That. I'm just deleting some old messages on here. Telecommunications. Gotta love it. I got this message on my smartphone, and I didn't even have to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, and I love that another snowstorm came through for us this year. Let's see, that's the third snow day we've had this school year. You know what I don't get is, why do we have 3 snow days in one year and the other years, nada?
Well, since you seem to be a little bit of a Spanish speaker, let's just say we can thank El Niño for most of our snow this year.
Hey, I know a little Spanish, but El Niño? What is that?
Well, before we go into a language lesson, let's say hello.
All right. Hey everyone, I'm Scott.
And I'm Matt, and we're from Poudre High School. We're counting the days left for school.
Only about 23 as of this taping.
Wow, it's been fun. Don't get us wrong. But it's spring, and we're seniors. We're ready to get out of here.
You bet. Okay, what about what was it, that Spanish word you used? And what does that have to do with all the snow days here in Fort Collins?
Well, the word is El Niño, and it can result in snow days in Fort Collins, and at the same time, change the fishing industry off the coast of Peru.
Wait, Matt, okay, El Niño, snow in Fort Collins, and fishing off the coast in Peru? Do you think that's a little far-fetched? What did they have in common?
You'd be surprised.
Okay, I'm sure you're right, but first tell me about El Niño. I just like to say it, El Niño.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, doesn't it mean boy child or little boy or something like that?
Yeah, I can see that your days in Spanish class haven't entirely been wasted. See, look here. The term was originally used by fishermen in South America to describe unusually warm ocean currents just south of the equator near Ecuador and Peru. And since the warm currents often occurred at Christmas time, the El Niño, or the little boy, was a reference to the baby Jesus.
Wow. Okay, so the ocean usually becomes, or unusually warm near South America near Christmas time. How did that affect the fishermen? Was it a good thing?
No. Actually, the fishing was awful during an El Niño year.
Oh.
In fact, the fishing was so sparse that it often made sense for them to take a break from their fishing and repair their nets and boats and, spend time with their family. After all, it was Christmas. Not only was the fishing bad, but because the ocean waters were warmer than normal, there was more evaporation, which meant more clouds and
more rain.
Exactly. So in the El Niño years, they experienced warm currents that changed the fishing and heavy rains. Those are some pretty big changes. After many months, of course, they returned to normal. So as with most science, it all started with people noticing change.
Okay, so warm waters and heavy rains along the eastern Pacific. That's all interesting, but...
But what?
Well, how can something that starts somewhere in the Pacific near the equator affect the number of snow days we get here in Colorado? I don't get it. You said we can thank El Niño for most of our storms this year. How do you explain that?
I know it's hard to believe, but that's how interconnected our planet is. It's like a spider web. We don't live anywhere near there, but those abnormally warm currents can affect our winter weather patterns and lots of other things that are tremendously affecting our lives. When you understand the condition of El Niño, be prepared to be amazed.
All right, lay it on me. I'm interested now.
Okay, before you can understand this thing called El Niño, you have to understand what happens during normal conditions, because El Niño doesn't happen most of the time. Here's what it normally looks like. Trade winds normally blow toward Australia, and when the winds blow to the west, they actually push warm ocean water with it.
So, you mean the water kind of sloshes over to the other side?
Right, it does. The sea surface heights are higher on the Australian side, and the water is warmer there too.
Well, what about the South American side?
The ocean is cooler because the surface of the warm water has been pushed by the winds toward the west, and the colder water from below comes up to replace it. That's called upwelling. Fish love whenever there is upwelling because lots of dead, decaying material comes up from the bottom, which means there's plenty to eat.
Okay, so if that's normal, what happens during the abnormal or El Niño event?
Boy, I wish I could tell you why it happens, but we don't really know. Why do these changes occur periodically? Is it us? Is it nature? Scientists really don't know for sure. But every once in a while, every 2 to 7 years, we have an El Niño event.
So it's a pattern then?
Well, sort of. it repeats, but not on a frequency that we can count on. Let's watch what happens. The trade winds die down. See how they're losing their punch, and sometimes they even change direction like this. See, they're going toward the East Pacific instead, taking the warm water towards South America instead of Australia.
So instead of cold water upwelling along the coast of South America, there is a blanket of warmer water, and the fish, they probably don't have much food to eat.
That's right. So they leave the area to find better feeding grounds. And that's what the fishermen noticed centuries ago. But lots of other things happen too.
Well, like what?
Well, the most obvious would be Australia. Australia experiences drought during El Niño. The trades aren't pushing the warmer currents there, so there is less evaporation, which means less cloud buildup, and therefore
less rain.
Right. And you know what happens in the outback with drought.
Wildfires.
Yeah, they're not thrilled about El Niños.
Well, what else happens?
The weather changes in the US too.
How so?
Well, the Southwest gets lots of rain because the storm patterns are more to the south. So here in Colorado, it's good.
Oh.
Well, and bad.
Good news and bad news. How so?
Well, El Niño can mean lack of snow for snow areas like Copper and Winter Park.
That's bad. So that explains why we had a tough opening season and so-so snow conditions for most of the winter.
Right, but southern ski resorts like Telluride usually do great.
That's good if you can travel that far.
Yeah, because the storms tracked more to the south, we have more upslope storms and more snow in Fort Collins.
That's bad. Or, wait, that's good. I certainly love snow days. The more the better, but this winter was a little too long for me. Anyways, what else?
Well, there are also less hurricanes during El Niño years.
That's a good thing. New Orleans and Gulf states must really like El Niño years.
There are some benefits.
It's so amazing how interconnected we all are.
Okay, let's find out about our own weather and see how El Niño has affected our conditions by looking at our graphs for the month of March 2010. We'll start with the snow that fell in Fort Collins.
Okay, well, we usually get an average of 11.8 inches of snow in Fort Collins in March. But this March, we had about 13.1 inches of snow. And that fits the El Niño pattern. But now let's look at our precipitation. Looking at the month of March, we typically get about 1.41 inches. And this month, we had about 1.55 inches.
Excellent. Okay, now for mountain snow. Here's our snow station data from Joe Wright Reservoir, up on Poudre Canyon. Our average mountain snow, taken over 30 years, is shown here in blue.
And the red line is our snow water equivalent this year. When you compare all the snow we've had in Fort Collins and then look at the data just over the hill, we're pretty lacking in snow.
Because of the El Niño, we get more upslope storms and less mountain storms.
All right, let's show our hydrograph of the Poudre. Our average flow in blue and our current data flow shown in red, as you can see right here.
Stream flows haven't changed much.
But don't let that deceive you. I keep saying it, wait until the spring snowmelt. Things are going to get really interesting really fast.
Stay tuned for the next few months. It's going to happen soon.
Okay, so what's left?
Well, let's take a look at the water from the western slope, the Colorado River, which is stored for us in Horsetooth Reservoir. As you can see, we've gained 7 feet.
Well, Matt, I would say it's been a good report.
So, do you get El Niño now?
Even though it's complicated, I think I understand El Niño and how it affects even us, even though we are thousands of miles away.
We are all part of a big spider web of connections of water and air that surround the planet. You might call it teleconnections.
Wait, what?
Well, I've kind of been bragging about my smartphone,
Yeah, you have.
Internet access, telecommunications, I know what's happening from far away, right? Well, the El Niño event is part of a teleconnection. Figure that one out.
Well, changes in one place can influence weather conditions hundreds or thousands of miles away.
Right.
Like how fishing in Peru can be an indicator for certain snow conditions in Colorado. Thus, teleconnection.
Exactly. Nice job, Scott.
Thanks. Well, I owe it to you, oh wise Buddha boy. We'll see everyone in a month for a recap of our conditions for the month of April 2010.
See ya.